Okay, I'm here with Harry Scott today. Harry traveled thousands of miles from County Fermanagh, the town of Ballamallard, uh, and you were on the project, on the graveyard restoration project. We have pictures of you photographing graves and everything. What did you, since the project has been basically finished, what do you think the people in Ballamallard thought about that project?
Well, the people in Ballinamallard, well, when you talk about the people in Ballinamallard, there's two people, and the people you'd be talking about more the older generation.
Okay.
The older generation would be the ones who really appreciated it, liked the sound of it, liked what we done, and then you've got the other generations, which would be, I'd say, 40 under. They're the they're the generation that need to be educated on it, that need to learn more about it. And I had the privilege that when I created a documentary on the history of Ballinamallard, that I was able that I was able to go into the primary school and talk to primary school age people about the history of Ballinamallard, but been able to talk about Orange Peggy, who's buried up at the graveyard, which was a link for them to where she's buried.
And Orange Peggy, as I call her, uh, what what significance does she have for the old graveyard and the history of the town and the county?
Well, Orange Peggy lived to 108, the ripe old age of 108. So basically, she was one of the oldest people in Fermanagh, if not Ireland, but don't quote me on that. But
Correct.
or the UK, but she was one of the oldest people in Fermanagh, and she lived on an island which is just outside Ballinamallard, which to drive I'd say is about 15 minutes
Oh,
outside Ballinamallard. And she lived in this island and lived alone, and would travel to Enniskillen. And the story goes that her husband and some of her children were drowned while returning from the local town of Enniskillen on the water. So she does have a significance because she's a well known figure.
nice, nice. And working with the people that did work on the project, the volunteers, um, what kind of comments that you did you get from them? What kind of satisfaction or results that you feel like they had?
Well, in particular, I'm going to mention one person, Jenny Bryant.
Okay.
Jenny Bryant is a lady who is big into history and everything to do with history. And she sat down with each grave with a piece of paper and a chalk and put the put the paper onto the graveyard and then traced over it with the chalk to get the letters. So she had transcribed all the graves.
Okay.
And speaking to her, she said that it was very nice to do because now we can see it in print. And don't get me wrong, some of the graves she said could not be transcribed because maybe it was too worn or whatever. But about 99.9% of the graves she was able to transcribe, and we've now got them into a lovely book. Which, if somebody's going up to the graveyard, they can take the book up and they can read the book and see what's happening and see each grave and what it's all about. So it basically stopping other people from having to do the labour intensive, time intensive, old way of doing it.
And now the graves are recorded their location, right?
Yes, so yes, the graves are located, and there's different numbers. So if you go to the book, you'll see number one, and you'll know what grave it is and stuff.
And
Because there is a map. There is a map in the book, and the graves are numbered on the map.
and currently, I think it's Mel McLean is working on uploading all this information to find a grave. Correct?
Yes, There's some people looking only to find the grave now. I'm not 100% sure on that because there's so much smaller projects happening within the larger project. One of the projects which I hope to, as in my role as community engagement officer with the Ballinamallard Historical Society, I hope to, whenever the grave is opened, whenever they get it fully complete, do an opening, and I've spoke to Henry Robinson, who's in charge of the project, and invite people up. Maybe have a barbecue up there, some food, maybe on the entrance up, but invite people up to have explore the graveyard, have a day where they can come and do that once it's complete and see the restorations, and maybe invite the local primary school up as well so the kids can also be involved.
That would be awesome, Harry. I would love to attend that. Don't know if I'll be able to, but I'd appreciate the invite. So,
Well, you'll be there in spirit.
Okay. So, when Kevin and I had came to Ballinamallard, you guys had a nice event for us there, and we, did some touring of the local graveyards and cemeteries. Um, we greatly appreciated the outreach of the community and everything that they were doing. Uh, do you have any comments about that event after the fact, after we left, or anything?
Well, the comment I'll go back to I'll go back to whenever Henry Robinson first came to the Historical Society and said to us, there's a fella, Jack Armstrong and Kevin Armstrong from America, and they're retracing their roots. Not gonna lie, the first thing I thought was, oh, not Americans tracing their roots. Some wannabe Irish.
Right, right.
But from from understanding the project and understanding yourself, it now shows that you do have actual connections to here. It's not just something that a story that your granny told you, or a story that has been passed down through generations that, oh, you're from Irish, but there's no real basis for it. You've actually got a story where you can actually trace right back to where they actually lived. And that event in Ballinamallard was good because when you said Armstrong, whenever you went there, you actually realised, okay, I actually know quite a few Armstrongs from the local MLA, or local politician. She married into Armstrong, to the old youth leader in Ballinamallard, to some members of the Historical Society, and it was a great event. I'm not going to lie, it was a great event because it was the event that I got an invitation to Phoenix. Not going to lie, I went home and said to my parents that this man called Jack Armstrong has invited me to America, and my mum I think she just agreed with me, but knowing in her own mind it'll never happen. But I was determined to see Phoenix, and after 3 years of trying, I finally got here.
That's awesome. So when you got here, I introduced you to the museum and gave you a tour, and I could see that your mind was going over all that information, and when we were finished after about 45 minutes, your comment was quite revealing. Do you remember what you said?
Yes, my comment was, when I first came in, I thought, oh, okay, this is just his work, but never really, it didn't overwhelm me or anything. But by the end of it, I was like, okay, this is more than I actually thought. Because when you first walk in, it's just Armstrong in the room and think, okay, it's just about one family. But whenever you delve into it, you you appreciate it more.
Yeah, that's true. And when people see the museum, they're just looking around at these objects that I'm talking about. But honestly, what you saw was just a fraction of the artifacts and books and everything, documents that are there. It would take you months to go through it and understand just how much is actually there. So I'm glad you got to see it. You are officially the visitor that traveled the farthest
Okay.
to see the
So,
museum.
mhm.
We've had from both ends of the United States, we've had Canada, but we haven't had anybody from Northern Ireland. So you're the first.
Yes. So, and it was a pleasure to come out and see the museum, and in particular to see the most wonderful state of Arizona, a state where you can be in the middle of the desert, and 4 hours later, you can be in the middle of pine trees, pine forests. To an hour later, you're at the Grand Canyon, which is a massive hole with rocks, just amazing.
Yes, it's called one of the seven wonders for a reason. It is jaw dropping to
Yes,
view.
it is.
Totally. So you're on your way back. I'm glad you made it
Yes,
out, Harry. I appreciate the visit, and I appreciate everything that you guys have done over there at the graveyard on behalf of the Armstrongs, but on behalf of all of those border clans that are represented in that graveyard. We're getting communication from people all over the world wanting more information about the family that's buried there.
yeah.
So it's been pretty exciting and rewarding. Kevin and I have a lot more work to do there. We still are filming our um, documentary, so we'll continue to do that. It might take 2 more years, it might take 10 more years. But we're going to
Yeah.
keep filming, and we're going to keep uncovering history there in County Fermanagh.
Well, um, there's a great film called Terminator. I've actually never seen it, but we all know the famous line. When I think of Arizona and think of visiting yourself, this line comes to mind: "I'll be back."